Prepare to experience the strongest radio allowable by law. Secrets will be revealed. Myths dispelled. From the studio gym where excuses never apply, it's Superhuman Radio with your host, Carl Lenore.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of Superhuman Radio. We have a fascinating and important show for you today. We're going to talk about sleep. How appropriate. So I've been really stressed out lately, and I typically like to take melatonin, but I got to tell you some things about melatonin today on the show that may make you want to rethink large doses of melatonin. We're going to be joined by Wade Lightheart in just a moment from Bioptimizers. To talk about their new sleep breakthrough product. It's important because remember, I'm 64 years old, and I often think to myself, man, I wish I could sleep like I did when I was a kid. Like when I was a kid, I could have fallen asleep on a picket fence and gotten a restful night's sleep on it. Today, if everything, the moon isn't the right way and the feng shui in the room isn't right, it totally destroys my sleep. I have a pattern. I have to do these things in this order before I go to sleep to get a good night's sleep. And that's because as we get older, lots of things start to happen with our bodies, and some of them out of control. Well, you can take control of your sleep. You really can. And we're going to talk about it today. And it takes a lot more than just a melatonin. It really, really does. Before we get started, we have to thank our title sponsor, and that's Legendary Foods, makers of the now famous sweet rolls. They come in cinnamon, chocolate, and wild berry. And the sweet rolls, if you've ever been through the airport, I know I keep saying it, but whenever I'm traveling, I walk through the airport and I see a Cinnabon and I think, man, I'd like to have one of those, but I don't want to crap on myself. Well, now you can enjoy the flavors of Cinnabon without being guilty of leaving your dietary lane with the sweet rolls. They come in cinnamon, chocolate, and wild berry, 20 grams of high-quality protein, 1 gram of sugar, 5 net carbs. Go to Superhuman Radio. I'm sorry, shrbiz. I'm going to tell you, I took too much melatonin last night. I'm feeling it. shrnetwork.biz/legendary. Use the code SHR10 to learn more. Okay, now let me get my guest on. What a lot of people don't realize is if you take too much melatonin, it will actually agitate you the next day. Are you familiar with this phenomenon?
Yeah, in fact, for those who are fans of Dr. Andrew Huberman, he was talking about that, and he said of all the sleep researchers he knows, they don't recommend melatonin unless under extreme conditions. And there's some reasons for it, but it has to do with the phases of sleep. Mm-hmm. And most of the dosages that are provided in melatonin are really on the high. Like your body produces like 0.5 and people are taking 50 and 100 milligrams, like taking a lot.
Right.
And you don't need that much. It is melatonin, I think, where it fits well is for travel. It is great for resetting the circadian rhythm. However, the research indicates, if you do our sleep breakthrough site, we go into that, where it shows that continuous use of melatonin is a disaster for not only your sleep cycles, but a bunch of the other functions in your body. And so I think it's 97 million Americans suffer from sleep problems. Mm-hmm. As it stands. We're the most sleep deprived culture in the world as Americans.
Yeah.
And the reality is it's contributing to all kinds of things like the likelihood of heart attacks, hormonal imbalances, agitation, anger responses, accidents, low testosterone levels, I mean, poor blood sugar regulation. I mean, it just goes on and on and on.
And insulin, big thing. So cortisol, insulin, and blood sugar can become disastrous. And you can't put your finger on what's going wrong with your body because you'd never think it was the melatonin you're taking. The reality is all of the early research, all of the profound research was done with 0.6 of a milligram of melatonin. Where there's 3, 12, I mean, they have suppositories with 500 milligrams of melatonin to treat for the analgesic effect, to treat fibromyalgia. It's not for sleep. But my point is, we have this attitude that this harmless hormone, it's not harmless. In fact, it's one of the most important hormones because its fluctuations actually kick puberty into effect. If you give children melatonin, you can actually cause them to go into precocious puberty. So this is not how 10 is good, 20 is better. I actually took too much last night because I'm so stressed out. So I figured I'd add some to the sleep breakthrough. That's what I wanted to do. I woke up this morning so friggin' agitated. I didn't even have coffee. I couldn't figure it out. And then I thought about it.
Yeah, one of the interesting things just on the insulin regulation too, and coming from a bodybuilding background, is when my sleep quality drops or I don't get enough in duration, as I'm preparing, I notice my perception of hunger the next day goes through the roof, and I want caffeine and I want sugar and I want lots of it. And even when, you're kind of used to a relatively bland diet and like you cut your sleep and bingo, away you go, and you're off to the races. Driving accidents with poor sleep is really, really prevalent as well. Heavy equipment operators and things like that. One of the biggest causes of problems is poor sleep, lower reaction times, poor judgment, spatial perception. And so it's a serious issue and probably accounts for a considerable amount of deaths every year, both accidental and then long-term based on some of the health complications that go over time. So if you're struggling with your sleep, tune in today because we're going to help you overcome some of that. And there are some best practices. It's not just, take a bunch of products, but it's also some best practice. We can touch some of those as well.
Well, one of the things I want to point out about melatonin supplementation is if you look at the normal rhythm of melatonin production, it onset at darkness and it peaks around 4 a.m. in the morning. Now, think about this just for a second, because hormones and rhythm are critical. You must pay attention and observe rhythmicity, you try saying it, of hormones. That's testosterone, growth hormone. They all have their own rhythm, okay? So melatonin starts out low, maybe 6, 7 o'clock, depending on where sundown is in your area, and it creeps up. And around 4 a.m., it peaks, and then it starts to drop because cortisol starts to come in to wake you up in the morning. So the body likes this rhythm, and we call it circadian rhythm for a reason. Well, if you take a bolus dose of melatonin at the beginning of the night, and at 4 a.m., it's a reverse rhythm. At 4 a.m., it can't peak. It can't peak if you just took 20 milligrams of melatonin. The body can't produce that much. So what ends up happening is you start out high, and then you drop. You wake up 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. You think, I don't understand why I'm waking up. I took so much melatonin. Because the supplemental melatonin only lasts about an hour. It's just if you want to deviate, you want to change the beginning of your circadian rhythm, as Wade said, because you're traveling and you're jet lagged, and you want the night to kick in at 6 o'clock local time because that's your 9 o'clock where you came from. It's a good way to shift the melatonin pattern. But once you start to compete with the pattern, different story. And the other thing that it does, it can totally screw up cortisol because the cortisol cannot outperform a 20 milligram bolus dose at the beginning of the night. Everything gets whacked out. And this is why people wake up and go, I'm so groggy. Not to mention there are metabolites of melatonin that occur downstream. If you're going to take melatonin, you got to take 0.6 of a milligram. That's the clinical dose. Anything more than that, you're not using it for sleep anymore.
Yeah, it's really interesting. We also have a spray that we have that we suggest people when they go through it, that it's a very microgram aspect of it's 0.5, 0.3, or 0.4 of a microgram of melatonin that you can keep by your bedside. So if you wake up, you take 1 or 2 sprays and that'll put you back into sleep, because you have like kind of 4 stages. You have like the first is kind of like the N1 stage, is the gateway stage, which is like the first few minutes. And then you go to N2, which is about 50%. And it's kind of like what they call sleep spindles and K complexes. I won't get into all that details because I'm a novice on understanding all of those things. But then we have the third stage, this is the money stage, I call it, the deep sleep stage, the N, sometimes referred as N3. The more time you spend in deep sleep, and everybody's got these now scoring devices.
Right.
And I will state unequivocally that they're not all as accurate as they could be. Some of them are using on secondary data. So sometimes I think that you always want to correlate data with how you feel. And we're lucky because we're in the old school world that didn't have all this stuff. We gained everything by biofeedback.
Mm-hmm.
And I think some people, there's an over-reliance on digital, and they're like, oh, they feel great, but they see their sleep score is not right because maybe the data has been corrupted, but now they're stressed out because they're like, oh, I didn't get that.
Right.
But deep sleep that's the one that makes you feel rested and regenerated. And then the N4 stage is determined as that's the part where the dream state is. And you kind of come out of N1, going in as N1 and coming out as N1. And that's why you only remember a little bit of your dreams. There are ways to optimize that as well, but it's
lucid dreaming techniques, right? They're pretty cool.
Exactly. And so for example, Salvador Dali reportedly did this, is that he would hold 2 spoons while he was sitting, and he would enter into kind of a half that dream state. You know how you're kind of falling when you're really tired and you're falling asleep, and then the spoons would fall out of his hand and hit the floor. And the imagery that he has between waking and dreaming states was part of how he created all of his artwork.
Fascinating.
Yeah, very interesting. And there's some evidence that Benjamin Franklin did that as well, and some other, interesting kind of unique thinkers that were kind of emerging, both the subconscious and conscious. But that's a whole other area. But the point of the matter is you have these different states of cognition, and the sleep cycle, part of it is about erasing out the useless memories. So it's kind of like a flushing stage. Okay. And then you have a stage, which is the dream state, which is a lot of subconscious processing. So if you're a Jungian philosophy person, you realize the importance of dreams and how to access that sort of stuff, and how that can indicate certain aspects of your psyche that needs resolved. And then deep sleep is particularly those would classify as the REM sleeps. And then the deep sleep that's the regenerative stuff. That's the stuff that gives you the growth hormone spikes, keeps your testosterone levels, makes you feeling like you can wake up and take on the world. And that's ultimately where most of us are probably focused on.
Oh, and science shows that so sleep cycles vary from person to person between 1.5 hours to maybe 2 hours, where you have this peak, you go back down, you come back up. And during REM sleep, we are defragging the hard drive. We're storing the important memories. We're getting rid of the useless stuff. And we know that people who have like sleep apnea, they have fragmented sleep. They develop short-term memory issues and long-term, because they can't store their memories properly. And you know this feeling, and we've all done this. You woke up too early, but you felt great. Instead of getting out of bed, you lay there and you fell back asleep, and you woke up and you felt like crap. And that's because you're waking up in between one of those cycles, which you have to complete the whole cycle. And this is everybody's experience is like, why did I feel so great at 3 o'clock in the morning, but now I feel so horrible? It's because you should have just got up at that point in time and not going back to sleep, because you wake up midway through a cycle. But those cycles are so important for defragging the hard drive that they've been linked to dementia.
Yep.
So, I just wanted to throw that in.
I think it's another point. There's a great book. I forget the author of it, but it's Your Sleep Chronotype.
Yeah.
So Matt and I were arguing this for years. Matt prefers to have around 9 hours of sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm usually better at 7, and he can drop down to 8, and I can drop down to 6 and function pretty well. If I go up over 8, I feel terrible. And so there's dominant brainwave patterns, which are correlate with your sleep cycles as well. So there may be some individualization, and the sleep chronotype book kind of categorizes using, animal characters as the type of sleep person you are. And Matt is one type of sleep chronotype, and I'm another sleep chronotype. So when you're comparing data with your friends and colleagues and stuff like that, I think it's helpful to understand your sleep type, how much you're going to operate from, and then develop your sleep cycle around your individuality. And our new book coming out next year is all about, or in September, is all about how to individualize and customize your own health program. And I think sleep is a big one on it. There are some generalizations, and we'll get into some of those things that we can probably address that for people who are struggling.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm a better at 7 guy too. Like at 7 hours sleep, I wake up crisp and energized. When I sleep a little bit longer, I'm not as crisp and energized when I jump out of bed. And the problem
Are you an early guy? Or you get up early?
Oh, I love early, but I also love early to sleep. I mean, I'm in bed at 9 p.m. going to sleep. I'm done reading and everything else. The funny thing about that is, so I like to get up early. I wake up early naturally. I haven't slept with an alarm clock since I worked on the racetrack and I was a teenager, and I had to be in my stalls at 4 a.m. in the morning. So I'm kind of imprinted with a specific sleep thing. But what I want to say was, we did a study where sleep partners synchronize. So if you're married and you sleep with your wife and you enjoy sleeping with your wife, you'll notice that you sleep a little bit differently when you sleep with your wife, as opposed to, you're traveling on your own. So we also know that sleep patterns synchronize. Now, I don't know if we can literally tell from the motion it influences our sleep cycles, but the other problem is, when you don't have a compatible sleep cycle, one of you has to make the decision to get up early because that's better for you. And that's hard for most people. Talk about that a little bit.
I experience this my own self. My partner has a long sleep cycle and requires a significant and bigger amount of sleep than I do, like several hours.
Right.
It's probably one of the biggest gaps ever. And it's interesting because I noticed the difference of when we're together and when we're not. My sleep cycle is about 6 hours when I'm not with her, and it's about it moves closer to 8, which I don't prefer. And so I've been doing that, getting up. I have friends who have decided it's best that they don't sleep together regularly. They're married couples and they sleep in separate rooms. And they said it improved the quality of their relationship dramatically because they had such different sleep cycles.
Sure.
So, we're electromagnetic beings. And I think that there is electromagnetism that occurs. That's part of the attractive process to people. But there's also subconscious sleep things. And I think it makes sense that we correlate and, synchronize with people. And it's part of the human condition that I think we all understand, but often underestimate when it comes to when we're not awake.
So I want to talk a little bit about a sleep breakthrough for a minute, because this is what I typically see. So Katrina says, I've added pregnenolone to the hubby to help him. And she also mentions that she uses magnesium to sleep to relieve stress. This is what ends up happening, right? We go out and we start trying this and that and creating a formula that works for us. But is there one formula that seems to work for everybody? Is that where sleep breakthrough came from?
Yeah. So and just to be clear, Matt, my business partner, is as far down the sleep issue as before. His story is really interesting because he started off trying to do the reduction of sleep so he could produce more, sleep every 15 minutes or, an hour, four times a day, kind of reduce the sleep. And then he crashed and burned and it was a disaster for him. Then he came out of it and then he tried to optimize his sleep. I mean, if you go to his house, he's got everything from electronic devices, Faraday cages, specialized mattress, cooling systems, things that put it like, I mean, it's a process, and he's deep in this. And so we've been benefiting from that because sleep, he's really struggled with his sleep, and he's cracked the code on it. He's really mastered it and condensed it. And that was kind of the lead in conjunction with our research team to determine what are the composite elements that people are missing that contribute to good sleep. And our theory of the case going in, like all of our theories, is we identify a problem, we identify what the market's saying, and then what are the potential issues that are leading to that problem on a wide scale. And then we try to formulate a product. And by the way, I think we did 55 versions of this product and then tested it with our testing group in order to get not just the data research, but the biofeedback from people to say what was their experience. And we kept tweaking and tweaking and tweaking and tweaking and tweaking until we came up with their formula. And that's how we do things at Bioptimizers. It's not like a mishmash of maybes in a bottle. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't, that sort of thing. Like anything that we release has been tested, not just in the lab in our research facility, but also tested in the real world with real people. Mm-hmm. And that's what makes us a little bit unique. And so some of the things, if I can go into it, is you want to look at, what are you trying to do? You want to optimize, and you kind of touched on this, your melatonin production, mm-hmm. Okay? Your natural melatonin production. Okay. So that means you need building blocks. So one of your listeners said magnesium is great. So magnesium bisglycinate is one of the things that's been reported, particularly amongst seniors, in helping, sleep latency and cortisol concentrations, right? Right. Your cortisol goes way up. So another one is B6, and particularly P5P and B6. It's a coenzyme that helps regulate the electrical functioning, because if you have poor sleep and you put yourself up on, a brain monitor, you'll start, and this happens as you age, you'll see lower levels of electrical activity inside the brain. I went through a stressful period in my time a number of years ago, which led to the development of magnesium breakthrough. And we do a lot of neurofeedback training. And when I looked at my brain and I was in this most stressed time, I couldn't sleep very well. I was having anxiety. I was working too much and stuff. I had the brain of a 70-year-old man. It was really interesting how low the electrical activity, and and here's the feeling. You feel like you're living in hell. There are some minerals that are really important. Potassium gluconate. So there's a guy, what's his name? Dr. Ravi Alada. I think I'm pronouncing his name right. And he talked about sodium channels, and the optimal ratio of potassium to sodium is 3-to-1. So depending on your dietary strategy, your diet could be supporting a good sleep cycle, or it could be counteracting it depending on your potassium and sodium, because these channels is what helps your nervous system calm down. So a lot of people who are having problems with sleep, they have a high sodium in the diet and low potassium. And of course, if you've done a DNA test, you'll often see predispositions for these type of imbalances. And so I highly recommend doing a genetic test, because that may indicate some people are really like, for example, I can take tons of sodium. My body does really, really well on sodium. Other people, it's a disaster for. And so some of these key minerals can show up in your genetics. So it's always good to know that. Another sleep mineral is calcium citrate. Okay, so this one is involved in REM sleep, and it converts tryptophan into melatonin, right? That's basically what that does.
Yeah, you're basically backloading the pineal gland. Yeah.
Zinc orotate. Zinc orotate is and especially when it's taken in conjunction with magnesium is really good. It optimizes the testosterone cycle, and a higher testosterone cycle improves the quality of your sleep, which is interesting. Now, I can say myself personally, and I'll use a personal, I like to share things. There is a significant difference for me when I take zinc and don't take zinc. I notice my sleep. I notice my erectile function is different. I notice how my testosterone levels are different. Zinc is a big factor. I like zinc bound with copper, particularly. I have a little bit of copper, and I take between 20 and 40 milligrams of zinc a day, depending on how much I'm sweating. Like if I'm doing a lot of running and stuff, I double it because I've been training for a marathon to do something really crazy. So I'm sweating more. So I've doubled my zinc intake because I sweat a lot more. And then we've got, of course, magnesium. There's another pathway that I think a lot of people kind of used to talk about in the bodybuilding world, but it's kind of making a comeback, and that's your GABA pathway.
Yeah.
So GABA was kind of a recreational chemical used by bodybuilders to increase growth hormone. Children who sleep really deeply often have higher levels of growth hormone, and it's also related to this GABA cycle. And again, what that does is it reduces nervous system activity, essentially. And so that's why they call it the chill molecule. So when you have high levels of GABA, that means that you chill. And you can also see this in brain state, like so neurochemical dominance. You can take a Braverman test.
Right. Remember that?
And see which neurochemicals are produced easily in the body and which ones aren't. And a lot of people that have that may feel anxious in crowds or tend to use alcohol to be socially lubricated, find that they're deficient in the production of GABA. And I know with Newtopia, we created a product called GABAlicious that a lot of people use instead of using alcohol to kind of loosen things up when they're in a social situation if they're predetermined that. I used to drink particular Chinese teas that have GABA because when you drink a lot of, I drink go to these Chinese tea shops and drink this, GABA tea. And there's kind of almost like this calm, euphoric.
What was the name of the tea? Just curious. Do you remember?
I'd have to look it up, but it's at 05 in Vancouver, Canada. They got a website and they have a GABA tea, which I think it's a Chinese white tea, and it's really good. Really good.
Because valerian is a GABA agonist as well, I think.
That's right.
Antagonist. I always get them confused. Sorry.
That's right. There's a couple cofactors, like taurine is another cofactor of GABA. So in the right amounts, it can be very helpful. And then there's L-theanine. Okay, so the difference between drinking a coffee and drinking a tea is largely the presence of L-theanine. And L-theanine kind of counteracts the aspect of caffeine. The interesting thing, though, it's something that makes you relax without being drowsy. So when I used to drink that tea, you'd be it's almost this loose.
In fact, I feel that L-theanine actually makes me more alert because I'm kind of in that zone where I can pay better attention than that frenetic feeling that you have from. I like L-theanine a lot. I really do.
Now, another little key. So those are some of the minerals that you want to address, but I think an underestimated aspect, and I understand this from living in Canada, and now I'm living in California, and I've lived in the tropics as well. Sleep temperature is a big issue.
Huge.
And it's better for most people that they have an ability to get their temperature lower. That indicates sleep, and then you start to heat up, and that's what wakes you up. That's normal cycles inside the body. I sleep better in cold environments.
Me too.
And
66, 65 degrees at night. I love it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so we've played with the temperature, and my sleep cycle is extremely disrupted if I'm above 68 at night. And there's beds and there's chilly pads. You can experiment with those because some beds will increase your heat and some will offset heat. So they'll suck the heat out. And you look at in the NFL right now, you see all the advertisements of these sleep systems that they're advertising on the NFL because they're trying to cool the temperature of the athletes so that they get deeper sleeps, and they're monitoring it, and they've got beds that manage it. So it's getting pretty in depth because sleep's such a
In
problem.
fact, one of the important roles for the bit of melatonin that we do produce is it drops body temperature. And so that as the melatonin rises, your body gets cooler. If your body doesn't get cooler, it's like, this isn't how we need to sleep. So and I know a lot of people, I can't sleep in a cold room. I'm not saying cold, cool. There's a big difference.
Correct.
Are most of the things that we're talking about actually in Sleep Breakthrough?
Yeah, exactly. So we've actually addressed that. And then we got one other thing is glycine. Mm-hmm. So this is also related to the REM cycle. And one of the things that we have are almost across the board that happens when people are using Sleep Breakthrough is they report the recollection of their dreams a lot more. In fact, since I've been using Sleep Breakthrough, and I thought I had good sleep in general, but I started using Sleep Breakthrough, and I began keeping a dream journal, because my dreams are so evident and prominent when I wake up. I used to remember, I used to read Carl Jung, and I'd be like, God, how does he know so much about all these different dreams? It's like, yeah, I can barely remember my dreams, every now and then. And then now I'm literally, 4-5 nights a week, I wake up and I'm fully cognizant of some dream space I've had. And I've been actually exploring that side, which was interesting. Carl Jung lived in a different time, didn't have the electromagnetic pollution, a lot of nature, a lot of lack of stimulation, and built a whole model of the unconsciousness and the evaluation of dreams. And that's, of course, throughout much of history. And I think this interesting aspect of the human aspect is like, we're missing out on the dream state and its influence on our social structures, yes, and our subconscious
and civilization in general. I mean, it really is a huge imprint on civilization. People that don't sleep well, they have crappier lives. There's no doubt about it. So it's very, very important. So we have a bunch of questions we're going to answer. All of your questions will be answered on the other side. I just want to take a quick commercial break. And then when we come back, we'll answer your questions, and you'll hear a commercial spot for the new bioptimizers product. Take advantage of it, because what could happen? You sleep better. That's all there is to it. And we're going to talk about dosing, because just like everything bioptimizers does, they make it so that you can personalize your own experience and get the results that you need. And we're also going to talk about what is wrong with people who really do have jacked up sleep. Like, we have a question about this guy's had sleep studies, and he can only sleep 4.5 hours. What happens? Is it at birth? What do you think? We're going to talk about that when we come back from the break. How's that sound?
Sounds great.
All right, sit tight. We'll be right back. Great sleep upgrades you on virtually every level: body fat, muscle mass, mood, brain function, and countless other ways. But taking melatonin alone isn't the answer. Thanks to a brand new sleep formula developed by my friends at Bioptimizers, you can experience the best night's sleep ever. Sleep Breakthrough is a delicious sleep drink that supports your natural melatonin production and relaxation without creating a dependency, so you can have the best night's sleep on demand. It targets 5 different sleep pathways to give you the best sleep ever. And best of all, you'll wake up feeling rested and rejuvenated so that you can have the best day possible. For an exclusive offer for my listeners, go to sleepbreakthrough.com/SHR and use the code SHR10 for 10% off. Plus, you can unlock special gifts with the value of at least $20. This is a limited time offer, so go to sleepbreakthrough.com/SHR right now. Merrick Health is a premium telehealth platform that connects customers with partnered providers from the comfort of your home. Merrick provides concierge service with your very own patient care provider as your health advocate. You'll go over all your needs and goals, from improving sexual function, hair loss prevention, increased muscle, fat loss, and overall improved performance. Prescribed treatment options can be ordered and shipped directly to you if you meet the requirements, all from the comfort of your home. Go to shrnetwork.biz/Merrick Health. That's MAREKHEALTH, and order your comprehensives and get 10% off with code SHR. Don't forget to add the lab analysis to have results reviewed with potential confidential over-the-counter supplements or treatment recommendations. That's shrnetwork.biz/Marek Health and use code SHR at checkout. Or order your own desired labs with code SHR and get 10% off your first lab order. Millions of people know that Shrewd Food is the smartest way to snack. Ever get that craving for crunchy snacks but don't want to eat all those empty carbs? Well, instead of puffed corn or wheat like most snacks, Shrewd Food puffs protein powder. This gives these crazy efficient macros: 2 grams of carbs, 14 grams of protein. That's as high as 67% protein and with only 90 calories. So knock out the carbs, but keep the amazing flavor and crunch you're looking for. Shrewd Food is now available at Walmart and Sprouts. Or go to shrnetwork.biz/Shrewd Food and use the code SHR25 for 25% off your order.
Dogs should be powered by fat and protein, not carbs. That's why Visionary Pet makes low-carb, ketogenic dog food for dogs of all breeds and life stages. From kibble to freeze-dried and even low-carb treats, all Visionary Pet recipes are very low-carb, ketogenic, and made with 100% real meat protein. Shop now and use code SHR for 20% off your first order today. Your dog deserves the lifelong benefits of optimal nutrition. Make the switch to Visionary and see why smart dogs eat low-carb.
Move over, superheroes. This is the Superhuman Channel.
Hey, welcome back. Oh, too many buttons. We're talking about sleep. It's on everybody's mind. It really is. I don't know anybody who says I sleep great anymore, but people who use Sleep Breakthrough do say that. But you gotta tune it in, right? It's not a one-size-fits-all supplement because people aren't one-size-fits-all, right?
Yeah, we found, so here's what the bottle looks like. And I'll just show people. So it comes in a powder because it'd be like with pills, and that allows you to control the dosage. So for most people, I recommend starting with 2 scoops. And you go between, most people report benefits from either 1 to 4. Right? And you'll see it's just simple. You just pour it in like this. You'll see this kind of greenish blue color come up, right? Mm-hmm. It tastes great. It's sweetened. The bluish green color comes from, we use a spirulina as well. It's a superfood. There's silica in it. We sweeten it with katemfe. I don't know if you're familiar with katemfe, but it is a new sweetener that it's a protein-based sweetener out of a berry in Africa.
Really?
There's zero weirdness in the taste. Like, you know how a lot of sweeteners have aftertaste? Yeah. Yeah. So for example, if you're using stevia, we have a little micro amount of stevia, but stevia, the difference between 100% stevia and a 99% stevia is huge. That's where you get that weird aftertaste. When you have the katemfe, I mean, it's super expensive as a sweetener, but you need such a small amount, but there's no weirdness in the taste. So it's kind of like almost like if you've had those GT Synergies, the Divine one, the blue one, right, it tastes kind of like that. It's kind of like somewhere between a grape and a berry. And I'll give you the breakdown. So if you're doing a couple of scoops, you're going to get 2.5 grams of taurine, 3 grams of glycine, 0.25 calcium citrate, 1.125 pharma-GABA, 0.2 L-theanine, 0.03 zinc orotate, 0.025 of P5P, that's the B6, and magnesium bisglycinate, and you're doing about 0.125. Now, I will say this. I like, for myself, and you can toggle this. For me, I found that 3 scoops of this and 1 magnesium breakthrough before I go to bed is optimal. And it took me about a month to figure that out. I tried 2 magnesiums. I tried 4 scoops. When I go, and here's how you can monitor this. If you wake up, like at say 5 or 6 hours, you're talking about that disrupted sleep. So if you wake up and it's earlier than you think, dial back the dosage of scoop. You probably took a little bit too much and you kind of went through the cycle, like you changed your cycle a little bit. And so this will allow you to adjust. So start at 2, see how you feel, and then go up a scoop and see, track your sleep. If you don't get the benefits, go to 4. If you find that 3 is too much, dial it back to 2 and then try 1. And then you can also toggle with magnesium breakthrough. And it's a great way to kind of play with your sleep. And like all of our products, it has a money back guarantee. If you're not sleeping better, if your scores aren't better, then we'll just give you all your money back. Thanks for the test. That's how we roll. But I can say this: we released this at the Dave Asprey's Bulletproof event in the summer, or last fall. And these are the people who are like, they got the dials and the watches.
They're actually doing encephalograms and stuff
everything.
Like that. Yeah, right.
Well, we released it, and of course, all the people who are tracking their sleep wanted to try it. The next day, we sold out of all of the product because these people were seeing their deep sleep scores doubling. And when you double your sleep score, and these are people that are good at sleep, they're putting a lot of effort. They were just shocked and blown away. And so that's a little anecdotal stuff. I'm interested in hearing from all your listeners and, of course, how they experiment with it. I know they're on the bleeding edge and they're really up to it. I think they're going to find this product maybe one of the best sleep enhancement ever. So
I love it because many of the things that are in it were what I was taking separately before bed: glycine, magnesium. I mean, and I just like but let me tell a funny story.
Yeah.
I was fortunate. You know what I'm going to talk about, right? The first time I used it. So I was fortunate enough to get the original blend, and it wasn't in nice packaging. It was in a no label, and it came with a piece of paper, and it said about, I forget, it was like half hour before bed, or it's mixed 3 heaping tablespoons.
Oh no.
Yeah. So I'm thinking, okay, but it said like drink a little first and then drink more right before bed. And like, I'm like, wow, heaping tablespoons, like that's a third of the jar. You know what I mean? So I go, okay, look, these guys are doing. Oh man, not only did I not sleep good, but I felt like I had dreams that I was in a bubblegum factory all night long. It was horrible. And then I emailed Matt. He's like, who told you 3 heaping tablespoons? I said, the little piece of paper that came with it. He goes, no, didn't you get a scoop? I says, no. Then they sent the scoop out and everything was better. I just need 2 scoops and I sleep like a dream. Really. Yeah. It's that good. And I've tried everything, like last night I was stupid because I added melatonin thinking I needed a little oomph. What a mistake that was.
And there's also, we do have the Dream Optimizers, which is going to be released as well, which is the spray. And you can do that to reset. And it's a very, very micro amount of melatonin. It's not like most of the servings, which is too much. And you would take that. I keep it by my bed. If I wake up for whatever reason, I'll take a spray, 1 or 2 sprays of that. Boom. And
that's how I use it. Go right back to sleep. And especially if it's in the middle of the night, it seems to put me back to sleep just for about 4 hours. Perfect. Yeah. I'm ready to get up. Yeah. All right. So let's go through some of these questions and comments. Let's see here. Craig Hollander has a long one. And this is what I worry about because I have a good friend who was a pilot for 25, 30 years, and his sleep sucks no matter what he does. He says, I've tried every hack. I only get 4.5 hours sleep. I wake up to 10 wake ups. I almost never get delta wave sleep. It's so sad when you read this, I get morning sun, tried melatonin, GABA, theanine, etc. Sleeping pills don't even work for me. What happened to this poor guy? Like, did something happen? Because when he was baby, I'm sure he slept, right? So what happens to people who their circadian rhythm is so disrupted that the imprint stays for the rest of their lives? What's going on? What do you think?
I have a couple of friends in that boat. One who travels extensively in the nutritional supplement industry. She suffers from insomnia. One, she travels all the time. She was in the banking industry, went into the nutritional supplement industry, but kind of repeated the patterns. And I have another person that also had similar insomnia components. And both of those people experienced early childhood trauma.
And he says that I've had a lifetime of trauma.
Yeah. And now I can't say that's the case, but what's interesting is I do a lot of neurofeedback, and we actually have an EFT. There's a great book called The Body Keeps Its Score. If you haven't read that book, I would highly recommend it. And so we engage this across our team at Bioptimizers. We actually have an EFT expert, emotional freedom technique. And so basically the tenet of that book says that the average person has somewhere between 200 and 500 traumas embedded into the nervous system that are running in patterns and create reactionary responses. And so this doesn't occur just for sleep. It can occur to social behavior or patterns of relationships or how you handle, there's all different, it can manifest in different ways. Mm-hmm. I would explore that with someone who's familiar. I would check out The Body Keeps Its Score and then find a way of someone who does trauma release therapy around that. Mm-hmm. And I've seen remarkable improvements with people when they do that. I'm not saying that's the case with this individual. I don't know the dietary cycle. I don't know all of everything that's going on in this individual's life, and I don't want to, preemptively say that, but that might be an area to investigate, because that's one thing I have noticed. And I've seen major improvements with people who have gone through that EFT and trauma release therapy. To pull basically you're just eliminating the reactionary response in your nervous system. So like if you've been in a car crash, and oftentimes when you get in the car, there's, as soon as the things break or something happens, like there's a nervousness, because even though the situation isn't demanding, there's an associative response in the nervous system that's embedded, and you're like, oh. And oftentimes when people have sleep things, there may have been some sort of disruption in early childhood, during the sleep cycle or traumatic event that is in the unconscious that you don't know about. That's disruptive. Right.
And a lot of people who go for like Rolfing, they have Rolfing is deep muscle. It's not massage, it's pain. And it releases memories that they they didn't remember before the session. So that's interesting concept.
I've done Rolfing, and that is,
I did it in Las Vegas, and I'll never do it again.
Super painful.
They literally try to separate the muscle fibers to remove adhesions, but man, the level of pain, I think what happens is, in my opinion, the level of pain that it takes you to lines up with a pain that you had that was horrific, and it's almost like priming the pump. You feel this horrible sense of emotion and pain, and an emotion or pain that occurred in your life goes, hey, hi friend, and you go, oh my God.
I believe that might be true.
Yeah, I just remembered something that I haven't remembered like my whole life. How did this happen? So yeah, Rolfing is tough. Here's another one. So Katrina Miller says that her problem with sleeping is tinnitus. But I got to be honest with you. I can't remember the term, but I don't think it's tinnitus, because when you fall asleep, your body literally disconnects from outside sensory perception. And so something else is going. So a lot of people wake up in the middle of the night and they go pee. They think that the need to urinate made them wake up. No, they woke up and then they were like, well, I think my bladder feels low, I'll go. They would have slept all night if something else didn't trip. That's why I think glycine is magic in this formula. Because it actually, glycine increases brain GABA better than taking GABA. Yes. Number two, it's a highly glucogenic amino acid that won't raise blood sugar unless you're having a hypoglycemic episode, and then it'll convert through gluconeogenesis. And people think if you take glycine, it makes sugar. No, gluconeogenesis is a very, very metabolically expensive process. The body doesn't turn to it just for willy-nilly. But if it needs, if blood sugar is dropping and the adrenals don't want to kick in, glycine will convert mildly to glucose. So I don't think that's your problem. And I'm going to tell you why, because you said something else in your post. You say that you've had 1,366 as your testosterone level as a woman at 61 years old. I'm doing 300 milligrams of testosterone a week, and mine is 1,366. So what I would say to you is, I'm willing to bet you have PCOS and you have insulin problems, because raging insulin levels have been associated with tinnitus. And when people, sometimes the first sign that someone's getting diabetic is they develop tinnitus. So I would say to you, you need, if you haven't had a good workup done lately, I would like to know what other symptoms you have. Do you have mild hair growth on the side of the face? I think they call that hirsutism or something like that. I have a funny feeling something metabolically is going on, and that's the reason that you're not sleeping well. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I'd like to get the 1366 testosterone level, though.
I would love that. Yeah, I would love that without having to inject anything. That'd be wonderful.
Yeah.
So AYG on YouTube wants to know your opinion of phenibut. I have an opinion, but go ahead. Yeah.
That's it. The big X. Stay away from that stuff.
I actually, I never used phenibut years ago, but I was having trouble sleeping before you came out with your product. And I started doing like 200 milligrams of phenibut a night. And I fell asleep. Then after a while, within a week, I fell asleep and woke up. And then after that, I was waking up with huge anxiety. And I had to wean off of it. I think it's hard.
If you look at the sleep medications that are being prescribed to people, that go look at the research of the negative side effects on a long-term perspective, because a lot of the research will say, oh, it's a 6-week cycle, it's a 12-week cycle, blah blah blah. Or, studies, subjects reported this benefit, that sort of thing. You look at the longitudinal studies on most of the sleep drugs, they're awful for your health. Mm-hmm. And there's a good indication that a lot of the sleep drugs lead to really poor psychological states. I think one of the more famous ones was when kind of Roseanne Barr went on her whole thing she was on Ambient, I think, or something.
Everybody loses their mind on Ambient.
They just lose their minds. So yeah, maybe you're knocking yourself out, but you don't know all of the chemical interactions and the dependencies that start to happen. And then what are the distortions that goes down the line? Every time you take a drug, whatever the drug is, you have to realize the benefits are the side effect. It's just the most predominant side effect. But there's a whole cascade of other things that happen that can build up over time, and oftentimes do. It's like, hey, I can go take testosterone, and I could take 2,000 milligrams of testosterone a week, and I'm going to feel great for a while. I'm going to get huge and strong. Yeah, go continue to do that for 20 years and see what happens. You can run into problems like anything else. So we know that in cycles, but America is a more is better. Let's give me Huey Lewis way back in the day. I want a new drug, right? Because it's fast, it's effective, quickly.
It's the American way.
Yeah.
So Craig said he does EFT.
Okay, so yeah, I don't. I'm really at a loss, Craig. I don't want to go off I don't want to start giving recommendations. I'm not a sleep medical practitioner, but I would engage yourself in wherever you are in some sort of sleep study with a university setting to see if you can crack the code on that.
I think he said he just did a sleep study. All right, look, and Katrina says the tinnitus was from a stroke and COVID. Okay, I understand that. So we're going to take our last commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to wrap it up. We're going to talk about the upgrades. There are lots of concerns about food supply today. That's why you need White Oak Pastures. White Oak Pastures will deliver food right to your doorstep. You don't even have to go out and be disappointed by shopping in grocery stores. The finest beef, pork, lamb, duck, and more can be found at White Oak Pastures. And now they even have seafood. And best of all, White Oak Pastures has a negative carbon footprint, which means that you don't have to feel guilty for eating your ribeye. Go to shrnetwork.biz/white oak and use the code SUPERHUMAN to save 15% off.
Hey guys, it's time to change your f***ing underwear, and it's time to change to Sheath. Sheath's underwear's revolutionary designs allows your man parts to hang the way they would naturally hang if you were not wearing underwear. And this improves the blood flow throughout the day to the twigs and berries. If you've never experienced wearing a pair of sheath underwear, boy, is there an exciting experience waiting for you. Grab a pen and write this down. Go to shrnetwork.biz/sheath. That's SHEATH. And use the code SUPERHUMAN to save 20% off your first pair. And get this, if you're not completely satisfied, send them back for a full refund. That's shrnetwork.biz/sheath.
Hey, this is Carl Lenore. I am the inventor of Gun Leash. Over 500,000 handguns are lost in the United States every year. If you carry a gun like I do, you are 300 times more likely to lose your gun. And 15% of those guns will end up in criminals' hands and used in the commission of a crime. Gun Leash solves that problem. Gun Leash is a patented, no-tracking proximity device the size of a postage stamp. It will alert you as soon as your gun is outside of your range, so you can never leave your gun behind. To learn more and to be notified when Gun Leash is available at the end of January, go to gunleash.com and get on our mailing list. Gun Leash. Never lose your gun, never leave your gun. For 17 years, I've heard promises of devices and gadgets that could eliminate chronic pain. I live with chronic pain. I live with sciatic nerve pain. It varies from just annoying to debilitating. I love to ride my motorcycle. I ride it every day if I can. And obviously my motorcycle doesn't treat my lumbar spine good. I got the Kylo patch and I promised to give it a try, but I got to be honest with you, I thought it was bullshit. But I did what I was instructed. Find the right spot over the pain. You'll feel the pain start to go away. Leave it there and go about your business. And I did that. And that day I got on my motorcycle and I rode for about 3 hours. It was a Saturday. I came home that day, got off my bike and had no back pain. That's rare. In fact, it's impossible. How could that be? Well, the technology is legit. And I can tell you right now, if you give Kylo a try, you'll find that you don't have to live with chronic pain. Check it out. Go to shrnetwork.biz/GoKylo. That's GOKAILO. Use code SHR30 for 30% off.
You're listening to the Superhuman Channel. Don't hate us because we feel good.
Hey, welcome. My microphone's working. We're talking with Wade Lightheart from Bioptimizers. We're talking about their new product, Sleep Breakthrough. I could predict 99% of the audience could use this product. No matter how good you think you're sleeping, you can always sleep better. So I'm going to put the banner. We have a tracking link that we use so that we can pay attention to people going to the website. If you go to shrnetwork.biz/sleep breakthrough, that will take you right to that page. If you use the URL shrnetwork.biz/bioptimizers, not only will you see Sleep Breakthrough, but lots of other great products like Magnesium Breakthrough and others that could also complement your ability to sleep better. This is a great product, and it's a great product that actually delivers. A lot of people out there are talking about sleep stuff, and it's the same old tired stuff. It really isn't the development influence of real live people doing things. Not everything in research plays out in the real world. If you're building a supplement because you found the schwack of research papers that dictate this and this and this and this work together, I'm somebody who high doses of GABA actually agitate me. Mm-hmm. So, you gotta appreciate when people do research and use large groups of real people in real sleep situations, and everybody goes, wow, this is good, it works. And that's what this product is. So you need to try it if you do have problematic sleep. And I don't know, for me, you may want to start out night one with 1 scoop, 2 scoops the next night, 3 scoops the next night, maybe 3.5, maybe 2.5 works for you. You have to dial it in for yourself. Now, nobody likes that anymore because everybody just says, hey, give me a pill. Give me 1 pill. But if you can't take the time to figure out your own unique dose, you could be missing out on the best night's sleep of your life. That's all I'm going to say. What do you think?
The top researchers in the field, if you go to the Hubermans of the world or individuals such as yourself, all of us have recognized individually that we kind of titrate or optimize our dosages of everything that we do. And so there's no one size fits all. And one of the reasons why we built the product the way that we did, and many of our products the way that we did, is that you can scale the dose relative to your individual needs, your unique biochemistry, your lifestyle, your genetics. We got a great new book coming out in September. I'm excited to be promoting. Hay House is very excited about it, our publisher. And we're going to be taking people through that journey of how you optimize it. Of course, you can get our other book, From Sick to Superhuman, which is the precursor to that, which starts explaining how you can break things down and think through your challenges and opportunities living the superhuman lifestyle. So we encourage that, and we're grateful to be on the show, Carl. It's always a pleasure to chat with you, and it's an honor to work with you. And of course, everything we do has a money back guarantee. If it doesn't work for you for any reason, we just give you a money back, and we have the lowest refund rate in the industry of anybody I know. So and our customer service agents are well trained and can help you solve your challenges whenever they are. So,
well, it's great. I always smile when your face shows up before the show, because I wish we were just hanging out instead of doing a show. Maybe someday we'll be able to do that.
It's going to happen.
But yeah, it's great. It's a great product. I endorse Bioptimizers products as well as Newtopia products, because these are all great products, thought through, and they actually function, and you can trust them too. Wade, have a great weekend, brother. Thank you.
Thanks, Carl.
And thanks to everybody for being here. Don't forget, share the show. You never know whose life you're going to change by improving their sleep. And we'll see you Monday with more Superhuman Radio.